In this lecture, we will study about the structure of the dura mater, that is the outermost layer of meninges around the central nervous system, that is around brain and the spinal cord. As we know, there are three layers of meninges around the CNS. Outermost is a tough, strong dura mater. The middle one is a thin, transparent arachnoid matter, while the innermost layer is a thin, vascular, delicate layer, pia mater. Between the dura and the arachnoid matter, there is a subdural space which acts like a thin bursa and allows the movement of pia and arachnoid over the dura mater, while between the arachnoid and pia mater there is a subarachnoid space which contains cerebrospinal fluid. The study of dura mater is important clinically as the extradural hematomas, that are the collections of the blood outside the dura mater, and subdural hematomas, collections of blood deep to the dura mater, occur very often during the trauma to the head, and both types of hematoma they differ in their clinical presentations, and early diagnosis can prevent complications and death of the patient. Moreover, between the layers of the dura mater, large intracranial venous sinuses are present which drain blood from the brain and also from the extracranial sides like from the scalp and from the nose. So extracranial infections, they can easily reach to the intracranial sinuses, leading on to their thrombosis and many complications. So in this lecture, we will study about the structure of the dura mater around the brain, that is the cerebral dura mater, and also the venous sinuses enclosed in between these layers, that are the dural venous sinuses. First, the dura mater around the brain. So this cranial dura mater is a double-layered structure. The outer layer is the end ostial layer. This end ostial layer is closely applied to the inner surface of the skull bones. The second layer is the meningeal layer. Both the layers they are closely applied to each other, but at places where they enclose venous sinuses or dilated veins between them, two layers will be separated from each other. So the cranial dura mater is having two layers, an outer endosteal and inner meningeal layer. The structure of the endosteal layer. The endosteal layer, it covers the inner surface of the skull bones, and it is in fact the inner periosteal lining of these skull bones. And at the margins of various foramina, like in this diagram, we can see the foramen magnum. So at the margin of the foramen magnum, the inner endosteal layer, it has become continuous over the periosteum which is present over the outer surface of the skull bones. So both the inner and the outer periosteal linings, they will become continuous with each other at the margins of various foramina. And in this diagram, we can also see that at the level of foramen magnum, where the brain is continuing into the spinal cord, it is only the meningeal layer of dura mater will continue over the spinal cord, and there is no endosteal layer around the spinal cord. So this is how the dura mater of the brain will differ from the spinal cord. So dura mater around the brain is a double layered structure, and outer endosteal and meningeal layer, while around the spinal cord it is only the meningeal layer is continuing. So that is about the endosteal layer. Now the meningeal layer of the dura mater. In this diagram we have shown by green color the meningeal layer. This meningeal layer will cover the outer surface of the brain, but it will also dip downward or invaginate downward, and this will form various types of folds, and these folds, they will divide the cranial cavity into various compartments, and they will also separate the parts of the brain. So we can see in the next diagram, here we have removed the occipital bone, and we can see the occipital lobes of the cerebral hemisphere and the cerebellar hemispheres. Both the lobes of cerebral hemispheres, they are separated by a meningeal fold of dura mater, that is falx cerebri, and between the cerebrum and cerebellum we can again see the meningeal layer, that is the tentorium cerebelli. So in this way the meningeal layer will not only enclose the brain completely, but it will also form the folds which will divide the cranial cavity into compartments and will also separate the lobes of the cerebrum, cerebellum, and also between the cerebrum and the cerebellum. These folds of the dura mater, they will help in protection of the brain against various rotational injuries. And these folds, they are named according to the parts of the brain which they are separating or according to their shapes. There are total 4 folds of the dura mater, and always remember these folds are formed only by the meningeal layer of the dura mater. The first fold is the falx cerebri. This falx cerebri will separate the two cerebral hemispheres. The second fold is the falx cerebelli, which will be present between the two lobes of the cerebellar hemispheres. The third is the tentorium cerebelli, which will separate the cerebrum and the cerebellum. And fourth is the diaphragma celli, which will cover the pituitary gland over in the pituitary fossa or hypophyseal fossa. We will study the structures of these folds one by one. So first is the falx cerebri. The falx cerebri is the large sickle-shaped fold of the dura mater. The anterior, it is having an anterior and a posterior end. The anterior end is very narrow and is attached to the crista galli of the ethmoid bone and to the frontal crest. And posteriorly, the falx cerebri, it will become broad, and at the posterior end it is attached to the superior surface of tentorium cerebelli. The falx cerebri is having a superior fixed margin where it will be attached to the sulcus of the parietal bones and an inferior free margin. And this falx cerebri will enclose 3 sinuses in between its layer. Over the superior attached margin, there will be superior sagittal sinus, and over the free margin, there will be inferior sagittal sinus, and at the posterior end between the falx and the tentorium cerebelli, there will be a straight sinus. So the falx cerebri fold of the dura mater, it will separate the two halves of the cerebral hemisphere and will have an anterior narrow end and a posterior broad end and a superior fixed margin and an inferior free margin. Next fold of the dura mater, it is the tentorium cerebelli. As the name is suggesting, this is the tent-shaped fold of the dura mater, which will separate the occipital lobes of the cerebrum from the cerebellar hemispheres. This tentorium cerebelli, as we can see in the first diagram, is having a superior surface related to the occipital lobes of cerebrum and an inferior surface related to cerebellar hemispheres. On the superior surface, the falx cerebri is also attached and a straight sinus is present at the junction of the falx and the tentorium cerebelli. The tentorium cerebelli, it is having a free U-shaped margin that is also called the tentorial notch. The attached margin of the tentorium cerebelli has an attachment laterally to the temporal bone and posteriorly to the occipital bone. And we can see the attachments of this tentorium in the next diagram. So first, just the revision of the bony points. This is the anterior clinoid process. The lesser wing of sphenoid, it will end up medially as anterior clinoid process, while the dorsum celli, they will end up as the posterior clinoid process. And this is the petrous part of the temporal bone, and inner surface of occipital bone, it shows the groove for the transverse sinus. Now first we will mark the attachment of the attached margin laterally to the temporal bone and posteriorly to the occipital bone. The attached margin, it will be attached along to the posterior clinoid process, then along the superior border of petrous temporal bone, and then it will be attached along the margins of the groove for the transverse sinus. Similarly, we can mark on the opposite side petrous temporal and groove for the transverse sinus on the occipital bone. The free margin is attached to the anterior clinoid process, and this is the tentorial notch. Through this tentorial notch, the midbrain will pass, and we can also see that along the posterior clinoid process, both the free and the attached margin, they will cross with each other, and at this crossed margin, two important cranial nerves are present, that are the third, the oculomotor nerve, and the fourth nerve, that is the trochlear nerve. So this is the attachment of the tentorium cerebelli, and this is the tent-shaped fold of the dura mater, and it will divide this posterior cranial fossa into a supratentorial and an infratentorial compartment. Now, along the anterior surface of the petrous temporal bone, in this diagram we can see the petrous temporal bone, and on the anterior surface a ganglion, trigeminal ganglion is present. The tentorium cerebelli, while it passes over the superior surface of the petrous temporal, it will also enclose this trigeminal ganglion in a cave, that is the trigeminal cave or the Meckel's cave. In the third diagram, we can see the complete envelope of the trigeminal ganglion by the tentorium cerebelli. So this is the attachment of the free and the attached margin. Just a revision, the free margin, the U-shaped tentorial notch attached anteriorly to the anterior clinoid process, and this tentorial notch, it encloses the midbrain in between it. The attached margin attached to posterior clinoid process, then to the petrous temporal bone, and posteriorly to the groove for the transverse sinus on occipital bone. At the crossing of the two margins, the third and fourth nerve are present, and this tentorium cerebelli, it encloses the sinuses. Along the petrous temporal bone, it encloses superior petrosal sinus, and posteriorly along the occipital bone, it encloses the transverse sinus, and on the superior surface the straight sinus is present. So that is about the tentorium cerebelli. The third fold is the falx cerebelli, which is a small fold attached superiorly to the tentorium cerebelli and inferiorly to the margins of the foramen magnum. This falx cerebelli will separate the two halves of the cerebellar hemispheres, and along the posterior margin of falx cerebelli, occipital sinus is present. Next fold of dura mater is the diaphragma celli, which forms the roof of the hypophyseal fossa, a fossa which lodges the pituitary gland. And this diaphragma celli will have an aperture in the center for stalk or infundibulum of the pituitary gland. Diaphragma celli is attached anteriorly to the tuberculum celli of sphenoid bone and posteriorly to the dorsum celli of the sphenoid bone. So these are the four folds of the meningeal layer of the dura mater. A large falx cerebri separating the two cerebral hemispheres, falx cerebelli separating two cerebellar hemispheres, and a tentorium cerebelli tent-shaped fold between the cerebrum and cerebellar hemisphere, and fourth one diaphragma celli forming the roof of the hypophyseal fossa. Arterial supply of dura mater is by the in the anterior cranial fossa, it is supplied by meningeal branches of ethmoidal arteries. In the middle cranial fossa, it receives branches from the middle meningeal and accessory meningeal artery, while posteriorly it receives blood supply from meningeal branches of occipital and the vertebral artery. Nerve supply of dura mater is mainly by the divisions of trigeminal nerve in the anterior cranial fossa, and over the vault of the skull it will receive ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve, while in the middle cranial fossa nerve supply is by the maxillary and mandibular divisions of the trigeminal nerve, but in posterior cranial fossa it will also receive nerve supply from the meningeal branches of the glossopharyngeal and vagus nerve, and also from the first, second and third cervical nerves. So during the infections and inflammations of the dura mater, the pain will be referred along the divisions of the trigeminal nerve. But if there is involvement of the dura mater of posterior cranial fossa, pain will be also referred to the back of the scalp and also to the back of neck region due to involvement of the cervical nerves. Another clinical condition in which dura mater can be involved is the formation of extradural hematomas. These extradural hematomas, they are present between the skull bones and the dura mater, and they strip off the dura mater from the skull. The only structure which is present between the skull bones and the dura mater are the meningeal vessel, the veins and the arteries. And mostly during extradural hematomas, it is the artery is involved, and most common artery involved is the middle meningeal artery, and most common site of rupture for this artery is at the pterion, where four bones they meet: the frontal, parietal, temporal and the sphenoid bone. And once the rupture occurs, there will be collection of the blood between the dura mater and the skull bones. And this type of hematoma, it occurs usually in the young persons, where the dura can be easily stripped from the skull bones. In older person, due to adhesions between the bone and the dura cannot be easily stripped. Now, in this type of hematoma, diagnostic feature is presence of a lucid interval. By lucid interval, we means that the immediately after the trauma, patient will become unconscious, and after this sudden phase of unconsciousness, patient will recover and will regain the consciousness. But soon this phase of consciousness will be again followed by either deep coma or some type of hemiplegia, paraplegias or monoplegias. This temporary phase of consciousness between the two phases of complications, it is named as the lucid interval. And this lucid interval is not actually the recovery, but at this time of lucid interval, hematoma is actually increasing in size. And this hematoma, if keep on increasing in size, it will now compress the major motor areas of the cerebrum. So just deep to the pterion, we have the lateral sulcus of the cerebrum and the major motor areas. And in these motor areas, the body is represented upside down, that is the face is the lowermost portion, and upper limb and lower limb is the portion which is represented highest on the cerebrum. So the in the lucid interval, as the hematoma increases in size, it will compress these motor areas, and paralysis will first appear on the face, and then it will progress, and it may, if it keep on increasing in size, it may result in hemiplegias or paraplegias. So that is about the extradural hematoma. So site of the hematoma, it is usually a blow on the pterion and mostly occur in young persons, and most of the time the artery involved is the middle meningeal artery, and the bleed in the outside the dura mater, it is mostly arterial. And lucid interval, that is the temporary phase of consciousness between the two phases of complication, is always present in the extradural hematomas, and paralysis will first appear on face and then it will progress. So that is about the extradural hematomas. And to treat these extradural hematomas and to stop the hemorrhage, we have to create a burr hole at the site of pterion, and we have to either drain this hematoma or we have to ligate the ruptured meningeal artery. And this burr hole will create it about 1.5 inch above the zygomatic arch. So that is about the structure of the dura mater in the brain, that is the cranial dura mater, which is having two layers: and ostial layer closely applied to the inner surface of skull bones, a meningeal layer which is forming the various folds: falx cerebri, falx cerebelli, tentorium cerebelli and diaphragma celli. And it is only the meningeal layer of dura mater which will continue around the spinal cord. And important clinical conditions in which dura mater is involved are the inflammations, that are the infections, meningitis, or formation of extradural hematomas.